Welcome to another episode of the SimTech podcast, the show where we explore the latest innovations and ideas shaping the world of healthcare simulation. I'm your host Craig, and today I'm joined by Peter from Revolve Labs. We'll be diving into the exciting work Revolve Labs is doing in the simulation space, developing cutting-edge solutions that are helping educators and clinicians train more effectively. From product innovation to the challenges of bringing new tech into clinical education, Peter shares some fascinating insights you won't want to miss. So, let's get into it. Hello and welcome to another episode of the SimTech podcast. Today we're jumping into another supplier showcase, and to help me do that, I've brought along a guest. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning, Craig. Really good to be with you today.
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Yeah, looking forward to having a chat.
Yeah, like you say, it's a little bit earlier than I normally prefer, so I might need a little bit of waking up here and there, but I'm sure you'll keep me going.
Good to get going. Seize the day, definitely.
Yeah, so Pete, we've asked you to come along to talk about something. What would you like to talk about today?
Yeah, I really want to talk about the work that we're doing at Revolve Labs to develop healthcare training, primary care primarily, and upskill healthcare workers, whether that's GPs, nurses, physios, even sort of care navigators, really across the board, equipping them with the skills that they need to do their job effectively and provide high quality patient care. That's our goal, really. That's what we're aiming for.
I mean, isn't that everybody's goal? I mean, it is it's.
Well, I hope so. It's, if we're all working together towards that goal, that is a good goal in healthcare to have to provide good care.
It's really easy to forget the bottom line sometimes, isn't it? That in training we're even here for the patients, aren't we? And to reduce risk and patient outcomes. Sometimes we forget that, don't we?
We're true. It's really key. I think when we're dealing with technology, we're trying to develop that, really work through like problems, iron out any friction, which is a big part of what we do behind the scenes because we're delivering our training in virtual reality. Then it could be easy to forget the end goal, which is ultimately that the healthcare professionals are competent and confident to do the work they need to do to ultimately help patients. And that's really where we want to be getting to. And so we try and keep that in mind with everything that we're doing when we're speaking to our clients and healthcare professionals about the training. Although we love the technology behind it, we're conscious that that's not true for everyone. But what we want people to be doing is focusing on the training, on the learning, rather than on the technology itself.
Yeah, sometimes it can hinder you. Sometimes, can't it? I know people sometimes we've got this kit, we've got these headsets, we must use them. And sometimes I see like you putting the horse before the cart. Sometimes there's just do a PowerPoint. Sometimes it's all right just to do a PowerPoint, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I think it's interesting. Like, obviously, virtual reality has some big benefits, which is why we focus on that. We also offer our training online, but the best mode of training we feel for what we're trying to achieve is virtual reality, and we're conscious, obviously, that that's new to many people. In some ways, that can be a benefit because if you're trying to learn something new, actually approaching it with a new training methodology, with a new technology can be helpful. It sort of kickstarts you into thinking differently and approaching it from a different paradigm. But equally, what we don't want is for that to be a hindrance for people. And so we try and make the experience as smooth as possible. It's literally pick up a headset, put it on, and you're in the training. As training providers, we need to ensure that there aren't these points of friction that for people who are perhaps less confident with technology, not used virtual reality specifically before, that's not going to stop them from accessing the training and starting learning. We need to get you to that point of learning as soon as possible with minimal distraction from the technology.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it just takes one bad experience, doesn't it? And people are put off from that modality forever.
That's key, yeah, and that's true of like any sort of digital transformation. You've got to guide people through. You can create the best training experience, but if people aren't able to access it readily, easily, without wondering where's the on button, how do I adjust this strap, where do I click, all of those sorts of things, then that might stop them from accessing what we feel is like really valuable training. And so we do try and make that as straightforward as possible. That's a big focus for us, is not just the content creation, but actually the delivery and deployment. And so that's a big part of what we work with our clients with.
All right, Peter, I've got a little bit of a warm-up question that I'd like to ask all my virtual reality / simulation enthusiasts. Do you count 360 video as virtual reality?
Yeah, it's a good question, because that is our key focus for healthcare. We do work in full virtual reality with medtech companies as well for the training and marketing resources we create for them. But it is taking you into a different environment that you wouldn't normally be in. So, I could sit here in my office and then suddenly I'm in a park, in one of our simulations, or I'm in a GP surgery, I'm in a patient's home. So it's taking me to a place that I wouldn't otherwise be able to go. We can build interactivity into that, as you know, as well, with 360, the use of hotspots and traveling through to different locations. So I admit, obviously, you've not got the 6 degrees of freedom that you're going to have in full virtual reality, but I think it's giving you something really, really valuable. And what that is, particularly the reason we've chosen in this particular application to work with 360 video, is the realism. So you are seeing people's actual expressions. You're in their actual home, and I think that's really, really powerful for the particular type of training we want to do, which is helping healthcare professionals understand patients, how to interact with patients, the patient pathway, and that's really key. Obviously, we could be doing this with AI avatars, and that has a place, perhaps at different types of training. And equally, we're seeing incredible improvements in some of those avatars at the moment, but we think they're still not quite there. And there's a place, I think, for 360 video as a training mode. So we've really focused on that. We think that's a really good way of accessing that training at the moment.
Yeah, you echo my thoughts there, Peter. I mean, I love all forms of virtual reality, but us as a simulation centre, we only really see a place for 360 video at the moment. I feel like the rest of the virtual reality world isn't quite there yet. You see, maybe an Oxford simulation virtual reality program. It's a little bit clunky, feels a little bit gimmicky. And as a simulation center, we could just run a sim, which would be 100 times better than that kind of stuff. But as a 360 video enthusiast, we can take them out into the real world, can't we? We can take them into a domestic setting. We can take them into an ambulance, a helicopter. We've recently just done an aeroplane. So we can take them out of the simulation center where there's a place. Do you kind of agree with that kind of?
Yeah, definitely. I think you need to see this is real world application. You need to see what it's like when you walk up to a patient's house, when you go inside. You need to experience the sort of mess, the busyness, and the real nature of that. We've not done anything a helicopter or plane, but I'd love to do that. That sounds fantastic. But yeah, I think that's really important, that you have as near to real life experience as possible when you're training. So if you've got a medical student, you've got a GP trainee, then you want to give them exposure to situations that it's going to be difficult for them to come across otherwise. And 360 video is very powerful at that. Sure, you could watch a video of that, but it's not going to give you that same immersion. And that's what we feel is so important with virtual reality, that full immersion within an environment, the distraction-free nature of being in a headset, and the ability to then interact to some extent with that environment, with resources you place within that situation as well. So that's really, really key. And people remember these experiences. It only takes putting a headset on someone and giving them an experience for a few minutes, and they're like, wow, okay, this is so different to anything I've seen before. And that's what you want. And yeah,
one of my favourite things is putting that headset on someone that has never been in a virtual reality environment before and just watching their body language and as they're holding onto the chair, white knuckled kind, it's brilliant, and I love it.
I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite things is doing demos with people that haven't tried virtual reality before, and especially when it is someone who's a healthcare professional and they're seeing the sort of situations that they come across and that they know they're trying to communicate to their trainees, but it's so hard to do. And I wish I could have a camera on every person, every time we put a headset on them, because the reactions are absolutely brilliant, and occasionally we've managed to capture those, and it's really valuable to see.
And I'd love to maybe put some observations on them and seeing how much their heart rate raises and the breathing rate.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, and I mean, and that just shows, doesn't it, just how immersed you are within those experiences. It is very, very powerful, virtual reality, and I think used appropriately in the right situations, it can have a real impact upon building understanding, upon gaining skills, which you just don't get in quite the same way in other situations. Obviously, other training modes have a place, whether that's e-learning or webinars or in person. But virtual reality, I think, gives you something that you can't achieve through those other modes. And so an approach where you're including that is really important.
Yeah. All right, Peter. We came to talk to you about you and Revolve Lab. What's your role at Revolve Labs?
Yeah, thanks. So I'm Director of Operations at Revolve Labs, but Revolve Labs being a small company means that title doesn't quite do justice of all the different aspects that I do, and different sort of fingers I've got, pies I've got my finger in, really. So I do all sorts of things from sort of the business operations side of it through to assisting with some script writing, deployment, sales, marketing, working on developing the products themselves. So spanning a whole range of different areas, really, which is fascinating and I really enjoy.
And what did you do before you found your role?
Yeah, so before that, I was in education. So I was a teacher for quite a while, and really enjoyed that, engaging with lots of different people, lots of different stakeholders in schools, and a real focus on learning. That's really been my passion, both learning and seeing how technology can aid learning and progress learning forwards. So looking at ways of deploying one of the things being virtual reality, and that's how I came into Revolve Labs in the first place. The founder of Revolve Labs, Hamish McKenzie, was working in digital transformation in schools, and then we started to look at using virtual reality really during sort of the COVID lockdown period. Students couldn't go on field trips, for example. They couldn't go overseas on cultural exchanges. So we looked at, well, how can we use virtual reality to plug that gap and take them to places that it wasn't possible to visit. And out of that, then Hamish was able to grow into the healthcare space, seeing a need for training there, both within primary care, but also in medtech. And really, that's where we've gone. So I joined the company a couple of years ago, and have been working with Hamish and the others since at Revolve Labs to really grow a library of primary care training that we can then provide across healthcare across the country.
I mean, it sounds like an awesome job, really. I mean, you're mirroring what many techs would do out there. Just doing whatever comes your way, a bit of a yes man, and just getting the job done, really.
It is. No, it's fascinating. Clients will come to us with a particular training need, or they'll see the training that we've got on offer at the moment, and we'll speak with them about, are there particular conditions that they want to address in their training that they feel like they've got a bit of a hole at the moment, they're not really addressing it as effectively as they could do. And we'll go through a process really of scoping out what the need is, what sort of learning objectives do we want to be hitting, and then planning and creating a virtual reality module that fits that need. And we do that with experts in the field. It may be the client's able to provide those experts, or is the expert themselves, or we can source experts separately. As an example, a couple of things we've done recently, we've done a module on dementia. We're doing one on advanced dementia as a sort of extension of that. We've done a module on women's health, focusing on menopause and HRT, and one on home visits as well. So real sort of breadth there of different modules, but all focusing on really key, like high priority conditions where there's a real need for training in primary care, and our clients are saying, this is the sort of training we have to and want to provide for our healthcare professionals at the moment, and that's spanning GPs, nurses, physios, but also care navigators as well. We've done a module thinking about conflict resolution for care navigators. Really important area and an underserved area in terms of training, I think, as well. Such an important role, that triaging of patients right at the front desk when they're coming into a surgery, and the more we can do to support them and aid really recruitment and retention, the better. It's a really vital area. So we've been really pleased to be able to be involved in that as well.
All right. So if I'm reading you right, I as a company want to create a 360 video. I come to you guys with a few learning objectives. I want to create this 360 video. You guys will help us shoot, record, and guide us through that process in the creation of it. Is that fair to say that's the stuff you do?
Yeah, it's the whole process. We really try and support clients end to end. So right from the very start, the inception of the project, understanding what their need is in terms of training, and then fleshing that out with a scope. So we ensure we're really achieving the learning objectives that we decide on. We'll then shoot that on site using actors. We follow an approach where we follow the patient and actor through their whole pathway, the patient journey, if you like, from their initial presentation through to diagnosis, treatment, and follow-up. So you sort of get to know that character as you go through a series of perhaps 6 different scenes and different locations. And then having created that training and incorporated what we call stop and think moments as well, so points at which you reflect on what you've seen and engage with in the training module, then we also focus on deployment as well. So both supplying the hardware and then helping train the trainers within an organization as well. We don't ourselves then continue to provide that training because we want that to be done in-house. We think that the best approach is if you can upskill within an organization people who are going to be able to go on and deliver that training, but we do provide ongoing support for the hardware as well. And we think that's really important in terms of, I mentioned earlier, for a digital transformation, it's very much not all about the technology. Like there's obviously a huge amount to do there in terms of getting a setup right and in terms of creating the content. But it's also about then working with an organization in terms of rolling out training and helping with adoption. You'll have people in any organization who are, so eager to get their hands on it, and you're almost sort of holding them back saying, just wait a minute. But the vast majority of people will, come on board with training that's new to them and new modes to them. But you'll have some who are more reluctant, and we want to work with them as well to understand their concerns. And they will have, really important, valid concerns, and we want to address those concerns as well. And help leaders in organizations to work out actually how can they effectively deploy the training. We were just speaking with one organization last week, planning out what would guided sessions look like using our training. So how would they go about, say, with a group of 20 trainee GPs? They've got an hour with them. What would that session look like? How would they use the virtual reality content in that scenario to get maximum effect? So it might be that the trainees are going through one scene independently themselves and then pausing, headsets off, and talking through their own experience off the back of what they've seen. And using the particular patient that you've got within that scenario as a prompt, really, to get them thinking and get them talking about their different experiences, because that's really valuable as well. Although virtual reality training inherently is an individual thing most often, there's a lot of learning that can be done from speaking with other people and learning from their experience, particularly in healthcare, where you're seeing so many different cases. over time. So that's something we try and, we make sure that we do facilitate as well, is really how do you deploy this training most effectively and get the most out of it, so that, again, coming back to that key aim that we had at the beginning, you are ensuring that the workforce is being upskilled, growing in confidence, and ultimately, therefore, able to deliver high quality patient care, which is really the key focus, obviously, of primary care.
I mean, it's sometimes easy to forget, isn't it? You think, oh, we'll watch this 360 scenario and there's all the learning. But actually, it's not. It's what happens when you take the headset off and you go through the debrief process, just as a regular simulation scenario would happen. It's still really important in it that happens. And one of the things that we've kind of adopted is we like our 360 videos to be cut into 3 parts. So the first part will often be done quite poorly, very sloppy, loads to unpack on the first part. But then we kind of adopt that actually the second part will be a little bit better, some things. So it's almost putting the participants' points into action that they brought up. Maybe it's leadership, maybe it's some non-technical skills, that kind of stuff. And in the second part, it's a little bit better. And then in the third part, we find that good role modeling is really important at the last part, because sometimes that's what they take away, and we hate to leave a negative impact in their head. This is a poor one, and then sometimes they take away and they go, "Oh, that's what I've learned. I've learned the poor thing." So we often finish on a high with really good role modeling. Although that can be quite challenging, it's really hard to record a good example of something when people are so critical.
Yeah, and I think that's really key. You learn a lot from observing, and that's obviously the case, across healthcare training. But particularly within VR, as you say, you can create a scenario as you like it. So it could be an example which is not best practice, and you can critique that, or it can be an example which is best practice. I think one of the things that we find does work very well in virtual reality is not only teaching sort of the patient pathways, teaching the clinical knowledge and understanding, but it is also seeing, as we mentioned, that the patient-clinician interaction, even the reactions of family members as well, and how you sort of speak to them, how you interact with them, and therefore trying to really build that sort of emotional intelligence, using good emotional intelligence when interacting with patients, and also building empathy, I think, is really vital as well. While we talked about the difference between doing 360 video versus full VR with 6 degrees of freedom, we focus on trying to achieve some embodiment within our virtual reality training by putting you in the patient's perspective or in the clinician perspective equally. And while that's, you're not seeing your arms, you're not seeing your legs move, so there is some limit on it. You are very much getting a sense of, oh, I am in this person's seat. When I'm seeing, the doctor deliver a dementia diagnosis to me, or the nurse carry out a memory test with me, or there's an angry patient comes into the clinic and is sort of shouting, in my face. My heart rate is elevated. I'm starting to sweat, and I'm really feeling that I am there. And that's very, very powerful. Not only, I think in terms of the learning, I'm going to remember that experience, but I am able to sort of mentally put myself into the shoes of that healthcare worker, that patient, and build up a greater level of empathy, which is so vital in any form of communication, and particularly, obviously, in interacting with patients and family members.
Yeah, how do you record your point of view? Because it's one of the challenges that we have, especially with 360, because what you don't want to do is turn around and have a big nose in your face. And what we don't want to do is look down and see your shoulders, 2 foot below you. How do you achieve that?
Yeah, really challenging. So that is probably one of the hardest bits of the filming. And I'm fortunate I don't have to do that myself. I sort of observe and see that happening. So if it's just a consultation between a patient and a GP, for example, then the patient stays in the room if the patient is the one we're looking at, and the GP would be replaced by the camera, but we'd still have audio links so that the actor playing the patient can still be speaking off the prompts of the GP there. But we had one recently where we simulated a multidisciplinary team meeting, and so we had 5 healthcare workers around the table, and another one who was represented by the camera in that case. So all the actors were having to act to the 360 camera. And then outside the room, we had the GP who was effectively the camera at that point. So tricky, I think the audio is almost the biggest problem
it's
and
the burden
challenge.
of life.
Yeah.
I mean, do you individually mic your people up, or do you just have one kind of central mic, or both?
Yeah, no, individually miking, so we'll have separate channels for all of those. We're able to achieve therefore good quality audio and isolation through that. But I'm very thankful to the team that we have doing that, because it's very much not my area of expertise. And then they're really, really good at doing that and get a really good audio and visual output from that.
Yeah, we've been on a little bit of a journey. I mean, when we first started, we did a very busy cardiac arrest in theatre, and we thought, the camera will be just enough on its own. And it survived, with editing and a little bit, we've managed to crank it up a little bit. But looking back, I think that shows growth, doesn't it? When you look back and you think, actually, we could have done that better. And now, knowing what we know now,
I think you're right. I think every time we shoot, we learn something new, and we can improve the process. And I think we've done enough shoots now that we've got it down to a T, and it's a very sophisticated process that I see our audio and visual technicians are carrying out. It's not easy. It's not as simple as putting a camera in someone's face and shooting 2D. The 360 shoot is a very complex scenario, especially when you're trying to record the audio outside the room, monitor the camera from outside the room. You can be, equally, we've done some outside, in a public space, in parks and things like that. That introduces a whole new load of challenges in terms of lighting and people. So it's amazing seeing that come together. But when it works, you get a really realistic impression, and I think there's no replacing that. The fidelity of the 360 image that you get, and the experience that you get when that's done really well.
Yeah, so we're recording a 360 on a farm next week, so we're doing a vehicle versus cyclist. But even things like the weather, what if it's too windy? What if it rains? All these things completely destroy the whole everything. Everybody that's booked, we've got paramedics turning up, and they'll just be cancelled with bad weather. And what I also you forget sometimes is that there's no hiding from a 360 camera. There's no hiding behind the camera. So once you press record, you've got to find somewhere to hide. So I need a building near the farm where I've got to be able to get the cast behind and out.
Definitely. No, that's a real challenge, and I know you've had previously Jordan Sigarides on, our Chief Medical Officer, talking about virtual reality, and he is always the one who is ducking behind like a phone box or a desk or something like that, trying to find somewhere to hide. We did one on a farm recently as well. We've done a module in East Anglia on farmers' mental health, and that's even got some cows in it too. So you can't. There's no controlling them. But I think that's come across very well.
Yeah, I had a tech on recently, Amber. If you're listening, hello. She's come from a farming background, and she said, yeah, there's a farming simulation network out there, and I've seen a few videos of their. I don't want to call them low fidelity, but their mock up of cows where they're pulling out baby cows. It's a world. You don't know this until you get into it, do you? It exists.
Amazing.
All right, so you kind of said that you're a recording company. You also provide the hardware. Are you software as well?
Yeah, so we really do everything. So we don't use a third-party platform. We have our own software build. So we build within Unity now. We've previously used 3D Vista, but moved away from that towards Unity because it just gives us a lot more flexibility and functionality. And that's something we do entirely in-house. So it gives us full control over that, allows us to build in the interactivity as we see fit, and we're constantly trying to develop that and enhance the user experience, really related to what we talked about before, reducing friction, making it as simple as possible. Things like being able to navigate quickly through the scenario. So it might be that you're training a group of trainees and you want to go to scene 3 straight away. We can really quickly do that. You can move through any particular video quickly by scrubbing through that. So all of that we think is really important, just to give the user control of the experience as well. So yeah, that's all developed in-house, which really does give us that flexibility and control over the end training product.
Yeah. Is it, I don't want to say is it complicated? Do you need a tech to make all this work, or would a nurse or a doctor who is not too tech savvy be able to pick up this and make it work?
So once it's in headset, 100%, you can just open the case, pick it out, and start using the training. Yeah, very much so. And that's I think really important. That's a really key part of it, is that we deliver you a case of a flight case with 5 headsets in. You can take that out. It's an offline experience as well, which is really important, because we know that when you're going into a hospital or a surgery, there might not be good access to Wi-Fi. If there is, there can be difficulties obviously in putting headsets onto Wi-Fi. So that's really key as well. And in order to sort of facilitate that, we do provide both printed guides, video guides as well, for how to go about the basics of where's the on button, how do you adjust the headset strap, all those sorts of details that you just need to know. Where's the volume control, those little details, which are quite straightforward, but if you haven't done it before, then you do need to be told. But otherwise, it's really, you pick up the controller and you point and click play, and you're straight into the training experience.
Is it synchronized, if you're aware of that term? Does the instructor have a tablet and will be able to control everyone else's headsets, or is it one headset at a time per person?
No, so at the moment we just do that independently per headset. So we haven't synchronized it. Again, that just keeps it really simple in that we don't need to provide a router in the box at the moment. We don't need to have those headsets connected, and it allows a GP surgery to have, say, a box of 5 headsets there for a couple of weeks, and then when they've got a spare moment, they can go and do that training. So I think one of the big benefits of virtual reality is the flexibility. So we talked earlier about doing group sessions where everyone's in the room, they've all got a headset on, everyone's doing say scene 2, and then they stop and talk about it. But equally, I think the other key benefit is that you can fit the training around your own schedule. So we know that healthcare workers are very, very busy. It's very hard for them to find the time they need to do the training, or to be released for, say, 3 hours to do a webinar. So if they say they've got, okay, I've got half an hour in my day, I can take that half an hour, go and do part of this module, I can come back another time and pick it up and continue, then that flexibility hopefully increases accessibility to training. And I think that's really important. So the ability to do that just on your own, I think, is one of the big benefits of the way that we've set the training up.
Yeah, it makes me a little bit anxious, because we've all, as a facilitator, I hate the thought of having 20 people in my class and they've all got these independent headsets, and one person's on Candy Crush over there. That person over there's turned it off, and then trying to sort them out when you can't see what they see. It's slightly awkward, isn't it?
Yeah, well, so I think you raise a good point there. So you've got to have the headset set up in such a way that people aren't going to be playing Candy Crush or Beat Saber or whatever it might be, So and therefore we do lock the headsets down so that it's literally you can access the training, and that is all. You don't need to be worrying about setting up your boundaries, about different apps popping up. Like, it's very much a controlled scenario. And I think obviously, if a trainer can guide an experience, then there's benefits to that. But one of the other benefits of virtual reality is that you can sort of personalize your journey through that training. You can take your time. You can go back and watch sections again. You can pause and consider questions, and so you're not being rushed through it. And I think that's really important as we're learning that people are able to learn at their own pace. That's key. I think nothing worse than sort of being rushed along and thinking you haven't had time really to consider sections that you want to. So that's definitely, I think, a big benefit of being able to do training in that way.
If we come and create some content with you guys, you record it and stuff, who owns the content?
Yeah, so the way that we go about working with our clients is that we have an agreement where basically they have full use of that content, but also we retain the ability to distribute that. If we didn't do that, then that would really limit our ability to get the training accessed across the country. And we think, there's obviously modules we talked about earlier, like dementia, advanced dementia, or one we've done on chronic pain. We want to see that being used widely across the country, improving patient care. And so what our aim is to build up a broad library of modules of topics for primary care. That means that anyone who's got our headsets can just dip into that and say, oh, well, this is the module I want to use for my trainees, or I'm a GP and I want to learn about that particular area. I'm a nurse and I want to upskill in this area. So we also retain rights to distribution of that content as well.
Cool. And hardest question of the day, Peter. Are you ready?
Go on. Yeah, give me a try.
How much does it cost?
Well, like, how long is a piece of string? It really depends on the complexity of the particular modules that we're doing. So there's so many variables, aren't there, when it comes to creating content. We could do something that's quite short form in one location with few actors, and that can be relatively straightforward and lower cost. Or it could be something which is shot over a couple of days, different locations. We were talking about farms earlier, and with greater complexity in terms of the interaction, the hotspots that we put within it, and movement between different locations. So there is definitely a range in terms of costs, and we work with clients really to think, well, what is their budget and what is their need, and how do we match those two together to provide them with something which is really high quality and of value for them. So that's really our sort of focus is being able to tailor the content, but also then end up with, as we said, a broad library that will be of value in many different situations, in particularly in primary care at the moment, but we are now branching out into other areas of healthcare also.
Okay, so even if I didn't want to create content, but you had something that that you've shot somewhere else, and I wanted access to that, I could just use other people's content. Is that fair?
Yeah, so we do also, so that was just one side of it in terms of the production and the consulting and supporting side, but we also supply flight cases with the content that we've already created. Often we find that people do also want to commission their own content because they've got particular training needs they want to address, perhaps with a sort of regional or local slant to them, because there are variations in how care is delivered. But we also provide that service of managed flight cases as well. So if there's someone out there listening who'd like to access that training, then they can get in touch, and we can talk to them about a deployment package and a supported managed service as well.
If people want to have a demo or anything like that, do you give demos?
Yeah, we do. And I think sort of depending on where you are in the country, we're Cambridge-based at the moment. So those in the region, it's very easy for us to access. But equally, we can do a demo online. So all our training is also available online. We know that there's a percentage, isn't there, as we know, Greg, that don't get on with virtual reality headsets for whatever reason, a range of different reasons. And therefore, it's really important that we do provide that training accessibly online too. I think it also helps, even if you have done the training in virtual reality, to go back to it later on online, perhaps when you don't have access to the headsets anymore, or if you want to access further resources. We often include web links related to sort of further reading and resources on particular topics that the training covers. And so in terms of demoing, we can easily run through a demo with someone online using our online platform.
And if people want to get in touch with you, Peter, or learn more about Revolve Labs, where do they go?
Yeah, so you can find us online. our website is www.revolvelabs.co.uk, or feel free to email me, Peter, at revolvelabs.co.uk.
Brill. Well, Peter, as I knew, time would fly by so quick, and it's such a short time that we've got to get all your information out. You feel like, is there anything that you'd like to say before we sign off?
Well, I think it's been great talking to you, Craig. We could talk all day, couldn't we? It's such a fascinating area, and we're so passionate about it at Revolve Labs. I know the whole team, Hamish and Jordan and everyone else is really passionate about getting this training accessible to as many people as possible. So, we'd love to work with anyone else out there in primary care or secondary care and other areas of healthcare as well. So please do be in touch, and even if that's just to others working in this area as well of VR training, we'd love to make contact and talk about the sort of challenges that we face, the ways that we've been able to address those. Just as we've been talking now, Greg, fascinating to hear what you've been doing as well. And I think we'll have to come back to you when we're thinking about doing something with a helicopter as well. That would be great.
Again,
I love that idea.
Just audio issues.
I can imagine.
Yeah, we struggled with the aeroplane, so we just used like a simulator. But you can't tell on the camera; it's brilliant.
I'd love to see that. Can I see that? Is that available?
So at the moment, we're not sharing yet because the whole scope of the project is we want to do a help is there a doctor on board course. So it's where doctors are thinking they're off duty and then they come across these critical incidents. So we shot 3 incidents on a plane. One was cardiac arrest, where we used Vivian life cast mannequin, and then we did a shortness of breath with like a language barrier kind of situation. And it's all about, I've had a couple of martinis. Can I treat? Am I allowed to treat? Where's the line here? And then there's like how do I communicate with the ground? What medical equipment's on the aircraft? All these kind of situations that doctors, I didn't know how much they fear these kind of environments because there's no escaping on an aeroplane. And it's just like, how do they, manage those kind of situations when, people have also got their phones out, but you're now on camera while this is happening,
That's fascinating. You could do that in a theatre as well, couldn't you? Is there a doctor in the house sort of thing? So, I don't know if doctors dread that or look forward to it. But yeah, extraordinary situations. So, I'd love to, when that's finished, I'd love to see that.
So the course happens in June, and after June, we're probably going to share it, and you might see us at a conference. So we're hoping we've submitted an abstract to ASPE, and you might see us a couple of regional conferences. All right, Peter. Well, thank you for coming along today. It's been great chatting to you. And your job sounds fantastic. I'm a little bit jealous hearing about all the stuff that you're doing because it's right down my street. Really, I love it.
Thanks so much, Craig. It's been really a pleasure talking to you today.
Yeah, thank you very much. And that's a wrap for this episode of the SimTech podcast. A big thank you to Peter at Revolve Labs for joining me and sharing the exciting innovations they're bringing into the world of healthcare simulation. It's always inspiring to hear how new technology is being used to improve training and ultimately patient care. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review and share it with your colleagues in the sim world. If you've got a question or want to get involved, please reach out. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep simming.